You know that feeling, right? That split-second shiver of déjà vu where a moment feels uncannily familiar,
Yeah.
like you've lived it before, even though you logically know you haven't.
Yeah, everyone gets that sometimes.
We're told it's just a quirk of the brain, momentary glitch. But what if that fleeting sensation isn't just an internal hiccup, just inside your own mind?
What if it's bigger?
Exactly. What if it's a ripple, maybe a subtle tremor, in the very fabric of reality itself, stretching way beyond just you?
Hmm.
We've all had those moments, right? A smell, a song, maybe just a visual, and bang, you're transported back. Feels so real, almost like reliving it.
Absolutely. Sensory memory can be incredibly powerful.
But imagine you're not just remembering something from your past. What if, instead, right now, you are being remembered?
Wow. Okay, that's a big leap.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we don't just scratch the surface. We plunge headfirst into these captivating, sometimes pretty unsettling mysteries of existence.
Glad to be diving in.
So today, we're taking a really bold intellectual leap. We're going beyond a concept. Many of you probably know simulation theory.
Right, the matrix idea,
So,
essentially.
yeah, that one. We're exploring something maybe even more provocative, truly mind-bending. We're asking, what if our entire reality, everything we see, feel, experience, every moment in history, every single life, what if it isn't a complex computation running on some cosmic supercomputer?
Okay. So what's the alternative then?
What if it's a memory, a grand cosmic memory that's being actively
Being
recalled?
remembered, like you said.
Exactly. So this deep dive, it's designed to challenge your fundamental understanding of what reality even is. We're going to peel back layers, starting with, the basics, how our own brains even make
The
memories.
neuroscience bit.
Right. Then we'll journey into some ancient myths that actually echo this very idea, surprisingly. And even touch on some cutting edge, though, yet highly speculative science.
It connects in some unexpected ways.
So prepare yourselves. This is going to be a journey with some serious aha moments, probably forcing you to question, well, maybe everything you thought you knew.
It's definitely a bold question to pose, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole premise that our existence might not be an unfolding present, but a kind of replayed past.
Yeah.
It fundamentally shifts the ground under our feet.
You really got it.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how it just profoundly reshapes our perception of reality, yeah, but also the nature of time itself, and even consciousness.
Consciousness, right? How does that fit in?
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But to really engage with something this big, you have to approach it with a really open mind. You've got to be ready to connect ideas that seem totally separate. History, philosophy, some pretty wild science.
Okay.
It really invites you to just step outside conventional thinking for a bit. Prepare to question the very bedrock of what it means to be real.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Mm.
Because, before we can even start to wrap our heads around this monumental idea, reality as memory, we have to first get a handle on what memory actually is, on a personal human level.
Makes sense. Start with the familiar.
Because, let's be honest, the common idea of memory, the one most of us probably carry around, it's like
Yeah.
a perfect filing cabinet in our head.
I am. Old archive metaphor.
Exactly. You just open the drawer, third birthday party, pull out this pristine file, a perfect recording, and boom, there it is.
If only it were that simple.
But it's not, is it? Neuroscientists, cognitive psychologists, they've shown us that's just, well, it's not how it works at all. The reality is
Wow.
way more dynamic, more alive.
Precisely. From a biological, neurological view, memory is anything but static. It's not a recording. It's an incredibly active, intensely dynamic process.
A process, okay.
It's not about perfect recall. It's about constant, ongoing reconstruction. Think about it like this. Every single time you access a memory, your brain doesn't just pull up a fixed data file.
Like downloading a photo.
Right. Not like that. Instead, it actively rebuilds that experience from fragments, from neural pathways firing, maybe some emotional residue.
Wow, okay. Rebuilds it.
And in that very active rebuilding, the memory gets changed. Subtly, sometimes maybe significantly other times.
That's so.
It gets shaped by, say, your current mood, or new information you've picked up since it happened, or even just the context you're recalling it in, maybe even by what you wish had happened.
Wishful thinking creeping in.
It happens. Bits get added, details get emphasized, others fade or disappear completely. It's like a living story you're constantly editing.
So my memory of last Christmas might actually be different next year.
It almost certainly will be, yeah. Maybe slightly, maybe more noticeably. It evolves.
That's genuinely mind-blowing when you properly think about it. Neuroscientists, they often say something like, we don't really perceive the present moment raw, right?
As it is.
Exactly. We're constantly reconstructing it, too, in a way. Our brains are these incredible machines, just relentlessly taking in this flood of sensory data sites, sounds, smells, textures, everything,
A constant stream.
and then immediately filtering and interpreting all that stuff through the lens of our past experiences, through all those stored memories.
It's like our brain has this complex internal filter, or maybe like a prism, refracting everything coming in based on everything we've ever learned, felt, experienced.
So we're not just passive watchers.
Not at all. We're active participants, constantly constructing our reality.
Right. Which brings us to a really foundational point for this whole deep dive, doesn't it? A kind of stepping stone to the bigger cosmic idea.
Exactly, which is that our personal reality is, in a very real, very profound sense, a highly personalized, constantly updated memory construct.
A memory construct.
Yeah, you're not just experiencing the world out there objectively. You're interpreting it, processing it, and really kind of creating it through the unique lens of your own memory.
And that lens is always changing as we have new experiences.
Constantly. Every new piece of info, every interaction, every sensation, it gets woven into this intricate, dynamic tapestry of your personal memory. And that tapestry, it doesn't just record your past. It actively shapes how you perceive and interact with the very next moment.
Wow.
So this internal, subjective construction of reality, it sets the stage perfectly for the big idea. If our personal reality works like this, what if the entire universe operates on a similar, just vastly more complex principle?
Okay, so think about this. This happens all the time, right? Have you ever sat down with, say, a sibling or a really close friend and started talking about some shared childhood thing?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you find your memories are just surprisingly different, sometimes hilariously so.
Totally. You remember it one way, they remember it completely differently.
Right. You're sure you remember who said what or the exact order of events, and it just completely contradicts their memory, and you're both absolutely convinced you're the one who's right.
Happens all the time.
And it's not just about one person being wrong. It's a perfect little everyday example of how our individual brains actively reconstruct, filter, narrate events.
It shows the process in action.
Yeah. Your past literally colors your present perception. It shapes how you recall things, sure, but also how you interpret and experience the world right now.
And that's powerful when you start thinking bigger.
Exactly. Extrapolate that beyond just your own recollections. Start thinking cosmically.
Okay, let's go there.
Now, a lot of you listening are probably familiar with simulation theory. It's an idea that's really, grabbed the popular imagination over the last few decades.
For sure. Nick Bostrom, Elon Musk talking about it. It's out there.
Right. Popularized by thinkers like Bostrom, whose arguments really laid the groundwork, and even discussed by people like Musk. The core idea basically is that we might be living in a super sophisticated computer simulation.
So advanced we can't tell it's not base reality.
Exactly. So detailed, so utterly real seeming, we just can't tell the difference. It's fascinating, maybe a bit unsettling. Makes you watch The Matrix differently.
Definitely. And it has an appeal, right? It offers neat explanations for things like why the laws of physics seem so perfectly fine-tuned for life. Maybe they were programmed that way.
Yeah, the fine-tuning argument. But let's take that familiar idea, simulation theory, and let's twist it, turn it inside out, reframe it in a really profound new way.
Okay.
Instead of us being computed inside some giant digital simulation like code running on a cosmic server,
Right.
what if we are instead in a memory that is being actively, dynamically recalled?
So not computed, but remembered.
Yeah. It completely changes the mechanics, the nature of it, the implications. It shifts us from being code to being, consciousness. Maybe.
Or the content of consciousness.
Right. Here's where it gets really transformative, I think. Think about when you revisit a really cherished childhood memory, like a specific sunny day at the beach or maybe a family holiday gathering, the warmth of it, or just the excitement of a big birthday. Okay. You're not just passively watching it from a distance, are you? It's not like watching some faded old home movie.
No, it feels much more immediate than that.
Exactly. You're almost re-experiencing it. The sights, the waves maybe, the sounds, laughter, the smell of salt air, the feeling of sand, the actual emotions you felt then.
It all comes flooding back.
Yeah. It can come rushing back with incredible vividness. It feels almost as real as if you were right there again in that moment. It's active, immersive, almost like a holographic replay, full of sensory detail, emotional weight.
Got it. That active re-experiencing.
Okay, so now extend that powerful analogy, that personal feeling, to a truly cosmic scale.
The whole universe.
The whole universe. What if our entire existence, every single person, ever, every historical event, from the Big Bang to, well, to this second, every triumph, every tragedy, every leaf, every particle,
Everything.
what if all of it is part of a grand cosmic memory that is being actively replayed? Just like you, an individual consciousness, can revisit your past experiences with that depth and feeling. Maybe we, our whole universe, are simply the recall past of some far greater, unimaginably vast consciousness or intelligence.
It's greater entity, as you called it.
Yeah, and this entity isn't just running a program. It's remembering its own complex, deeply felt experiences, its own history. And in the very act of remembering, it manifests our reality.
So the universe is born from recollection, not calculation.
That's the idea. It's a universe of recall.
So when you compare those two ideas, simulation versus memory, it really is a profound shift, isn't it? Almost spiritual, maybe, compared to the colder, more mechanistic simulation idea.
It feels that way to me.
Yeah.
A simulation implies, a programmer, a machine, code, algorithms. It feels digital, engineered, maybe even a bit sterile.
Right. Whereas a memory, that implies a consciousness, a subjective experience, an active process of recall that feels more organic, more intimate. It feels imbued with feeling, with meaning.
It does. It shifts us from being data points to being, well, lived moments within a bigger mind. What really stands out to you when you compare them, that cold calculation versus living recall?
I think it fundamentally changes the why, doesn't it? A simulation sort of implies an objective purpose, research, an experiment, maybe even entertainment, a game.
Okay.
But a memory that implies a subjective experience, a lived history, a narrative that was felt, learned from, maybe cherished, maybe struggled with. It raises these huge questions about things like nostalgia, reflection, self-understanding, even healing, but on a cosmic scale.
Cosmic nostalgia.
If we are a memory, there's this inherent richness, this subjective resonance, a quality of experience that just goes beyond mere computation. It suggests a really personal connection to whatever this greater consciousness is, even if we can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if reality isn't built just on logic and math, but on experience, emotion, consciousness itself, just unfolding and re-unfolding a grand cosmic story.
And this idea, as, provocative and maybe unsettling as it sounds to our everyday view,
Yeah.
it's actually not entirely new, is it? It seems to echo through ancient traditions, philosophies, myths all over the world across millennia.
You're absolutely right. It's like humanity has been wrestling with similar deep questions forever, long before computers or VR. It speaks to some kind of shared human intuition, maybe.
So, what are some examples?
Well, consider the ancient Hindu concept of Brahma's dream. It's a cornerstone of their cosmology.
Okay.
In this understanding, the entire universe, all beings, all the cycles of creation and destruction, endless events, it's not just created, it's seen as a manifestation of Brahma's cosmic dream.
The universe is Brahma's dream.
Yeah. When Brahma dreams, the universe unfolds, comes alive, plays out. Then, when Brahma awakens, the universe dissolves back into nothingness, maybe to be dreamed again.
Wow.
Isn't that, in essence, the universe as a kind of divine memory, where the dreaming itself is like an active cosmic recall, a re-experiencing by this all-encompassing consciousness?
So the universe is remembered into being.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. A conscious emanation. And think about the implications for free will if it's cyclical like that. Are we just repeating lessons? Is Brahma learning through the re-experiencing?
That's a whole other layer. That's a powerful parallel. And it's not just in these huge cosmologies, right?
No, not at all. Many indigenous belief systems around the world have this really profound, deeply embedded understanding of ancestral memory.
Okay.
And for many of them, this isn't just stories or history passed down. It's seen as something far more tangible, something literally carried in spirit, woven into the land itself, present in the air.
The land holds the memory.
Exactly. The past isn't gone. It's not distant or abstract. It's vibrant, alive, actively present, influencing the here and now. The mountains, the rivers, specific trees, the stones, they're believed to hold the living memory of ancestors, of events, of spiritual connections.
So memory isn't just in minds, it's in the world.
That's the idea. A continuous, living recall embedded in the physical environment, an unbroken lineage.
Okay, and then closer to our time, you mentioned Jung.
Right. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious. Jung proposed that humanity shares a kind of inherited memory, a universal psychic reservoir of experiences, patterns existing beneath our individual awareness.
Shared human memory.
Yeah, a repository of primal images, fundamental symbols, universal archetypes like the hero, the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, the shadow. They appear across all cultures, influencing our thoughts, behaviors, dreams. It's not learned, it's inherited.
So how does that connect?
Well, it raises the question for our deep dive. Are these Jungian archetypes maybe the imprints of a deeper, shared cosmic memory being recalled? Not just by us, but by the grand consciousness itself.
Could they be the recurring patterns, the characters or plots in that bigger memory?
Exactly. Could they be the fundamental structures of that greater entity's own past, always present in its recall, guiding how our reality unfolds within that memory? The universality of these archetypes really fits with the idea of a pre-existing, recalled blueprint.
It's really fascinating how you see these threads across so many different cultures and times, people grappling with these same huge questions.
It shows it's not just a modern tech-inspired idea, it's a timeless human inquiry into the nature of reality. Ancient traditions seeing the world as thought or dream, psychology hinting at shared memory. It suggests we've always sensed there might be more going on, that we might be part of a much larger story of consciousness and recall.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit now. Let's dip our toes into some more recent science. Still speculative, definitely, but interesting.
Moving from ancient wisdom to contemporary science, yeah. Exploring ideas, pushing the boundaries of how information, maybe memory, gets stored and transferred.
We're talking about things like cellular memory and the really fascinating field of epigenetics.
Right. And it's important, like you said, to acknowledge these are active research areas, lots of debate, and the connections we're drawing are exploratory, theoretical even?
Definitely theoretical. But they offer these compelling, thought-provoking ways to reconsider memory and inheritance, and they align surprisingly well with this cosmic memory idea.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because it starts to offer some potential, maybe highly theoretical, but scientific scaffolding for the big idea, moving from just metaphor towards potential mechanism.
Okay, like what? Cellular memory.
Yeah, take cellular memory, especially in the context of organ transplants. Now, it's largely anecdotal, okay? It needs way more rigorous study. But there are numerous compelling accounts from transplant recipients reporting really unusual changes after surgery.
I've heard some of these stories. They're wild.
They are. Things like suddenly craving foods they hated before, getting new hobbies out of nowhere, different musical tastes, even vivid dreams that seem to belong to the donor.
Like remembering things that weren't theirs.
Exactly. There are cases of recipients reporting very specific, obscure details, names, places, events, later confirmed as part of the donor's life. It's astonishing stuff.
Right, like the stories of a heart recipient suddenly loving chicken nuggets and finding out their donor loved them, or a lung recipient getting into classical music and the donor was a musician.
Those are the kinds of accounts, yeah. It raises this really profound, almost unsettling question. Is it possible memories aren't only stored in the brain's neural networks?
Could they be somewhere else?
Could they be stored at a more fundamental cellular level? In tissues, organs. And if so, could these cellular memories somehow transfer with the organ, letting the recipient access echoes of the donor's past?
That would be revolutionary if true. Memory distributed beyond the brain.
It would be. And then there's epigenetics. This is another field subtly but profoundly changing how we see inheritance and memory.
Beyond just the DNA sequence itself.
Exactly. We used to think inheritance was all about the DNA code, the blueprint. But epigenetics shows that trauma, significant experiences, even behaviors, can be inherited across generations without changing the DNA sequence itself. It works through changes in gene expression.
Like turning genes on or off?
Kind of. Think of genes like switches or dials. Experiences can change the settings, turn switches on or off, dial activity up or down. These settings, these epigenetic tags, can then be passed down to children, even grandchildren.
Wow. So experiences get inherited biologically.
In a way, yes. The Dutch hunger winter study is a famous example. Children born to mothers who faced severe famine during WWII had distinct epigenetic changes affecting their metabolism and health decades later. It's like a biological memory of that trauma passed down.
A biological memory.
Essentially, yeah. A sophisticated biological memory of ancestral experiences, influencing how future generations respond to the world without altering the basic genetic code.
Okay, so if we take these two ideas, cellular memory, epigenetics both still developing but fascinating, and we try to bridge the micro to the macro, from a single cell to the whole cosmos.
What picture emerges?
Yeah. If individual cells might carry echoes of past experiences, a kind of memory, and if our genes can carry imprints of ancestors' lives, a biological memory across generations. What happens when you scale that way, way up?
Extrapolate it massively.
Could we, on a grand cosmic scale, be sort of reenacting someone else's psychological imprint? Could our joys, sorrows, triumphs, our whole human story be part of this vast cosmic memory, a collective epigenetic expression of a greater entity's past being replayed, re-experienced?
It really challenges us, doesn't it? Science is starting to hint at connections, information transfers, way beyond our traditional contained ideas of biology and memory.
We think memory is just in the brain, inheritance is just DNA.
Right. But what if memory, in a broader sense, is a fundamental property of consciousness and matter at a universal level?
So if a cell can remember a craving, if a gene remembers trauma,
Then maybe the universe itself can remember its own grand narrative. And if that's the case, our reality might be less like a brand new story unfolding and more like a profoundly detailed, immersive, constantly retold narrative.
a cosmic history lesson being lived out again.
Possibly.
Okay, so if we really lean into this mind-bending hypothesis we're living inside a memory, a grand cosmic recall, the implications are just
Well, they're staggering.
absolutely staggering.
It's not just a fun philosophical game. It fundamentally challenges almost every assumption we have about reality, about history, and maybe most deeply about free will.
Shakes the very foundation.
Yeah, it opens up a completely new way of looking at existence.
Totally. And one of the most immediate profound implications is for our understanding of time.
Time itself.
Yeah.
How so? Well, if reality is a replayed memory, then our perceived linear flow past, present, future might just be the playback sequence.
Like watching a movie.
Exactly like watching a movie. You experience the scenes unfolding one after another, linearly.
Right.
But the whole film, beginning to end, already exists on the reel, right?
That's all there.
So, in the mind of this remembering entity, all of our past, present, and future could exist simultaneously as one complete memory. Our experience of time passing would be like us watching that film unspool, even though the whole story already exists.
Which means the future might already be remembered.
It suggests that, yeah, mind-bogglingly, the future might, in a very real sense, already be remembered in that cosmic consciousness. It's not being created fresh, it's being recalled.
Wow. That concept alone is, yeah, shivers down the spine stuff. And if time is nonlinear like that, just a playback, what does that do to history?
Well, it could mean history feels patterned or cyclical, not because of random chance, but precisely because that's how it was remembered.
The pattern is in the memory itself.
Could be. Think about the parallels in history. Empires rising and falling, Rome, China, similar trajectories, expansion, consolidation, decline.
You see those patterns.
Or major conflicts, the great wars repeating through millennia. Different tech, maybe, but similar human drivers. Even art movements, recurring themes, styles.
Make humanity revisit certain ideas.
Could these not be random? Could they be consistent loops, ingrained patterns, recurring lessons within that larger remembered narrative? Maybe they're the deeply felt, often recalled patterns of that grand consciousness's own past, its lessons, its triumphs, its traumas, replaying through us.
That reframes everything, which leads us to the biggest one, maybe the most challenging.
Free will versus determinism, the classic.
Yeah. If our reality is a recall, a memory being replayed, are our choices actually our own? Are we making independent decisions right now, exercising real agency? Or are we just reliving predetermined events? Events already written, already experienced, now just being stored and reaccessed in the grand memory.
That's the core tension, isn't it? Almost unbearable.
Because we feel like we're making choices every second. What to eat, who to talk to, big life decisions. That feeling is undeniable.
Visceral, fundamental to being human.
But on the other hand, if everything is part of a perfectly remembered past, then our actions, our thoughts, our reactions might just be the reenactment of what already happened in the mind recalling us.
Philosophers try to reconcile this, of course. Compatibilism suggests maybe determined actions can still be free if they align with our desires. But yeah, under this cosmic memory idea, the tension is profoundly unsettling.
It really makes you pause and think about your everyday perception, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Standing at a menu, feeling that genuine deliberation, or pondering a huge life choice. That feeling of freedom is so core to our sense of self.
Foundational.
But if you entertain the idea that these choices are already remembered, part of this vast unfolding narrative, you have to reevaluate that feeling completely. Does it make choices less meaningful? Or maybe a different kind of meaningful. Cosmic significance. What stands out to you when you really sit with that? How it shifts perception. For me, it makes historical events feel less like facts and more like moments being relived, felt again.
It creates this sense of, well, both profound awe and an almost unsettling humility, I think. The idea that maybe our greatest moments, our deepest sorrows, aren't just uniquely ours, but echoes in a grander narrative, a cosmic mind.
Comforting and unsettling at the same time.
Exactly. It can be strangely comforting for some, that connection, and deeply unsettling for others, that lack of ultimate control. It doesn't necessarily diminish our choices in the moment. We still feel the impulse, the deliberation, the consequence,
Right. The feeling is still real.
but it reframes them. Maybe our choices are the very mechanism by which the memory is experienced in its full vividness, the active participation needed for the cosmic consciousness to truly relive its past.
An interesting twist.
It encourages looking at patterns not as coincidence, but as potential signatures of this recall, urging us to find deeper meaning, maybe purpose, in the cycles. It compels us to see our lives not as isolated blips, but as vital threads in a universal tapestry of remembered experience, each moment adding richness to a cosmic story.
So after this incredible journey deep into possibility, let's circle back to that central provocative idea. What if you were a memory, not just a mind experiencing the world?
The core question.
If your whole reality, your life, your existence, is part of a grand recall, a cosmic re-experiencing, then the ultimate question just looms, doesn't it? It stretches our imagination to the limit.
Which is?
Who is remembering you?
Yeah.
What kind of consciousness, what kind of entity is powerful enough, vast enough, intricate enough to hold our entire existence, every detail, every particle, every emotion within its recall?
A single entity, a collective, something else entirely.
A future version of us.
Yeah.
The possibilities feel limitless.
And if this theory, this mind-bending idea, were actually true, if you knew your life was part of a cosmic memory, how would you respond? Imagine having that choice, that ultimate dilemma.
What would you do?
Would you feel this overwhelming urge to break free? To
Oh.
somehow step outside the memory, escape the narrative, carve out a truly independent existence detached from the remembering mind?
The escape route.
Or would you choose a different path? Would you lean into it, embrace it fully, choose to relive it, maybe trying to experience it better with more intention, more love, more awareness, knowing every moment is part of this greater tapestry?
And could doing that, could it maybe influence the next playback? Like how we subtly alter our own memories when we recall them? Could we guide the cosmic consciousness toward a different future memory?
That's the ultimate question, perhaps. Can the memory be changed from within?
It's a concept that just challenges everything we think we know about ourselves, free will, time, our place in this vast, mysterious, maybe remembering universe.
Truly profound questions to grapple with.
We really hope this deep dive has given you plenty of new perspectives to chew on. What do you think? We encourage you to keep pondering these ideas long after we finish talking. Question your own assumptions. Explore the boundless boundaries of your own understanding of reality.
Thank you for joining us on this, well, this incredible journey into some fascinating possibilities. Keep those minds open, keep asking the big questions.
Join us next time on The Deep Dive as we continue to explore the fascinating, often unsettling, but always captivating boundaries of reality.